space here up front if you want to sit. There's also space still there. Yeah, I think it's 1 minute or something. I'm waiting for the cue from technicians. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for the turnout. And for the next 50 minutes, we're going to talk about editorial cartoons, and we're going to talk about what makes them so powerful. So me and Emad are going to talk for a bit. First of all, we're going to introduce ourselves. Then we're going to show some cartoons that we think had an impact in one way or another. Explain how cartoons work and why we feel they're so important and so impactful and have such an important place in the media landscape. And after that, we're going to challenge you a little bit, but we'll get to that later in the workshop. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tjeerd Royaards. I'm a Dutch editorial cartoonist. I work for Dutch newspaper Trouw, and I also do cartoons for a lot of international media, including Le Monde in France and the Washington Post. This is a recent cartoon I did. I thought I'd show you one of my own works so you get a little bit of a feel for my style. It's based on the latest IPCC report, which was sort of a law warning towards mankind, and my cartoon kind of shows what I think will happen with that last warning. I also run a website called cartoonmovement.com for international political cartoons, and you'll see some of the examples of those cartoonists here this afternoon as well, so you can check that out later on. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Emanuele Del Rosso. I am Italian, I'm a cartoonist myself and a freelance communication specialist. I am a member of the Cartoon Movement and of the Cartooning for Peace, which is a French organization for cartoons. Again, this is my cartoon instead. Well, that's for the Iran situation and was on Le Monde. And I also run the European Cartoon Award, which is an award for editorial cartoons that belongs to the European Press Prize. So this is enough for an introduction.
Exactly. So we thought we'd start out with a little bit of interaction with you, the audience. So we picked out a number of cartoons that had an impact in some way or another. And before we show or tell you the impact, we'd like to show you the cartoon, and we'd like a raise of hands of those of you who feel this cartoon crossed the line. So this could not be published. This cartoon went too far. This is a cartoon by a Syrian cartoonist about Assad. Who in the room thinks this cartoon went too far and should not have been published? Well, pretty much as expected, no one. So the cartoonist actually got arrested for this cartoon, and nobody heard from him ever since. And free press organizations now think that he was executed by the regime for this cartoon and cartoons like these. So another example, a cartoon of Erdogan in Turkey was made by Musa Kart a couple of years back. Does anyone think this cartoon crosses the line? Anyone? Anyone, right? So he was fined for this cartoon, and a couple years later he made another cartoon that got him thrown in jail by Erdogan because Erdogan does not like to be criticized.
There's also one thing about portraying politicians as cats, I believe.
Yeah, although I did a search online for why Erdogan hates to be portrayed like cats, because that's the rumor, and I couldn't find any reason for it. So it's like a mystery. Okay, next one. This is by a Portuguese cartoonist. It's a recent cartoon that was published on Cartoon Movement, and we got a bit of pushback for it. So who thinks this cartoon is too controversial and crosses a line that should not be crossed? Still no. Actually, a Ukrainian cartoonist was so angry about this cartoon that he quit Cartoon Movement because he felt the iconography was too controversial. Here, a cartoon from Brazil, Bolsonaro and Netanyahu in an embrace. Anyone think this one crosses the line? Are we still in the realm of this is press freedom? This you think, or you're like? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So the cartoonist got sued over this cartoon, and he did another cartoon with a swastika and Bolsonaro a couple of years later, and he got sued over that as well. And I think that case is still pending. Wasn't too happy with the imagery. Okay, so we move up in the line a little bit, also by a Portuguese cartoonist. Who thinks this cartoon is going a little bit too far, maybe? Well, still actually a minority. So this cartoon, it ran on Cartoon Movement, wasn't published as an editor's choice, but cartoonists have the ability to upload on our platform. This cartoon got a petition, I think it was signed by 10,000 people calling for that we should fire this cartoonist. So this is a cartoon that I feel kind of goes too far, and it shows you, on the one hand, how impactful images can be, but also shows that if you use the wrong symbols, it can kind of, go sideways a lot. And the problem with a cartoon like this is that it makes people so angry that they kind of forget the issue that they're drawing about. I think we have one more. Charlie Hebdo cartoon about the keyboard setup assistant. Okay, so last show of hands. Who thinks this cartoon is going too far? It's also from a couple of years back about an earthquake in Italy, and the day after Charlie Hebdo came out with this cartoon. There's one. There's a couple. Yeah, this. I think the mayor of the town, Amatrice, I think it was called, right, Emma? The town
Amatrice.
Yeah. He sued Charlie Hebdo over this cartoon. He lost actually in French court, but it kind of shows you that cartoons can make people really angry. Oh, you got the clicker. Awesome. So, little dive into history. We show you these cartoons to, first of all, show how cartoons can have an impact in different ways, some good, some bad. But we also show it because that's what cartoons do. They are visuals that make you think in one way or another. And that's actually something that cartoons have always done. So this is a cartoon, it's a very famous one from 1831. It was drawn by Honore Daumier. It was actually based by his editor, who published a satirical magazine at the time. Catch this idea while he was in court defending himself for another cartoon that was about the king. In the cartoon, you see the French king, Louis Philippe, as he slowly transforms into a pear. Well, the king wasn't too happy about this cartoon, and he threw the cartoonist in jail for a year, and the newspaper that this cartoon was published in couldn't be published anymore, it was banned. Now, I'll show you this cartoon because the mechanism that you see here, where the king gets angry about a cartoon and puts the cartoonist in jail, bans the newspaper, is something that we still see happening. Go to Russia, go to China, go to North Korea, go to Turkey, and you see autocrats reacting in exactly the same way when people joke about them. And obviously they cannot take a joke, or probably they cannot take a joke. I'm sure that the king here was kind of pissed off with this cartoon because he didn't like people to make jokes about him. But the way they respond with oppression is because they also see the wider impact of political satire. It's because they recognize the impact that such an image can have. You have to imagine that in 1831, not everybody could read and write in France, but everybody knew what the king looked like. Everybody knew that the cartoonist here was making fun of him. And that's actually what cartoons do. They're like an open invitation to mark power. They show to everybody when you publish a cartoon, hey, you can make fun of power, you can criticize power. And especially the less democratic leaders who like to cling to power, they're not too happy with that. So that's not changed one bit in the last 2 centuries. The other thing that actually hasn't changed all that much is the way that cartoons are made. Obviously, we use computers now, we use Photoshop or other graphic software, but the way that we use visuals to comment on what's wrong is exactly the same now as it was 200 years ago. So this is a cartoon by the same cartoonist. Fun fact, it was made in 1832, so the cartoonist got out of jail and he immediately started drawing again, which I always like as an anecdote. And what you see in the cartoon is a cartoon is an idea that could have been drawn today. So what you see here on the left, I'm sorry for my hat, but I have to point a little bit. Here is the taxpayer of France, so the people who have to pay tax. You see the money being collected and carried up in wicker baskets, and they're going all the way to the top into the mouth of the king. Now these people obviously are hoping that something good will be made with the will be done with the money, maybe building hospitals, building schools, building sewage systems, roads, things for the public good. But the cartoonist also shows what's happening with the money, and it's not anything good. What you see coming out here, what's happening with the tax money, is aristocratic titles that he gives to his political allies. He's giving land all to consolidate his own power. So basically it's a cartoon about power abuse, about the misspending of public funds. Well, translate that to a cartoon today, you could, pick any spending tax money wisely, and it would work as a cartoon. Last historical cartoon I'll show. One of my favorite cartoonists called David Lowe, and he worked at the Evening Standard in London between 1928 and 1953. So he drew a lot of during World War II, all about Hitler. And the unique thing about David Lowe is, first of all, he managed to get on the personal death list of Hitler. So Hitler was so pissed off by his cartoons that he had like a little black book of people who he really wanted executed, and David Lowe was among them. The Evening Standard was actually banned in Germany already in 1936 because Hitler didn't want his people to see these cartoons. That's the first thing. And the second thing that makes him unique, and also why Hitler got so pissed off at these cartoons, is in the way that he drew Hitler. And he said in an interview after the war, if you're gonna mock power, you have to truly mock power. Now, if you look at how Hitler is drawn in the majority of cartoons from that time, he's, in a majority of cases, portrayed as a monster. Someone, I've seen him, with a skull for a head, giving a long shadow of war. He casts the shadow of war across Europe. He has a scythe where he's mowing down people. So all very scary imagery. And David Lowe does the direct opposite. And he said, if you truly want to have impact on a dictator, you shouldn't draw him as a monster, because dictators are fine with being feared. They're not fine with being mocked in this way. So.
All right, so second part, because the purpose of this workshop is also make you draw, and you'll see after this part that we have pen and paper for you. We thought we could collect some cartoons and show you how the cartoons are actually working. So what makes a good cartoon? There are some basic rules that even a horrible cartoonist like me can follow, and then it's going to be an effective cartoon even if it's not perfectly drawn. Because in the end, it's the message that's powerful, and it's the idea that's powerful, and maybe the courage of the cartoonist in a specific situation or country. It's powerful. So this is connected with what Tjeerd just said. If you portray a dictator in a gruesome way, the dictator is not gonna feel threatened by the cartoon, so ridicule is way better. But this cartoon is very good because of one tool that you can use as a cartoonist, which is that you can turn objects into something else. So in this case, the tank is becoming a chainsaw, thank you. So it's very effective because of course, the character is clear, and then you know what it refers to. And because there's a tank chainsaw, basically what you do when you read a cartoon is you really read the situation. So you just understand what the joke is. So this is a good example for that. But, like I just said, this is, for me at least, way better in the sense that if we have to imagine Putin feeling pissed off about a cartoon about him, maybe this is more effective because he's scared, he's trying to sleep, he's counting sheep, and then it's really clever what Hajjaj did using the different flags of the countries that are entering NATO, because then Putin is scared of that. So this is also very, very effective. So when you do a cartoon, think of funny situations with common knowledge things, like counting sheep to sleep. It's something that in almost every culture is something that people will understand, so you can use it for your cartoon. This one is also a great example of another thing that cartoonists can do, which is that objects become something else. So they slide into something. You imagine that, when you are a cartoonist that does international cartoons, you're gonna have audience that reads the cartoon from the left and audience that reads the cartoon from the right. So sometimes it can be a problem because the cartoon is a story, it needs to be read, and there are things that happen while you read the cartoon. But in this one, if you start from the right or start from the left, you still get to know that first you see the toilet, then you see the face, or then you see the face and then the toilet, and it is very, very effective as a cartoon. Also the fact that the word is used in that way, so you have a small object becoming big and a big object becoming small. It's also another thing that really works, because it just breaks the pattern, you know, like we are used to certain things, and objects are taking the positions that we think they should take in our mind, and when they are out of position, it's something that grabs our attention. Well, this one, for who is a fan of The Shining, the movie, is clear. For who doesn't know the movie, it's not gonna be, and that's just the limit of this, but using cultural references is a great way to pass a message. Because this is Netanyahu. I don't know how many of you watched The Shining, the movie? Yeah, right. So you know the scene in which Torrance breaks down the door with the axe, and then you see the face of Jack Nicholson. That's the same thing. So the cartoon tells a story with just one image, and
it was also tied to the news event of the re-election of Netanyahu.
Yeah,
the so many of re-elections. So it's tied to a news event using a cultural reference, and then you need like very few elements to tell a very effective story.
Well, maybe you want to talk about your cartoon.
Yeah, I'll talk about my own work. So we have caricature, we have cultural references. That I like to use a lot is contradiction, and you can use that in like a general sense. So if cartoons are very often about peace versus war, justice versus injustice, hunger versus wealth, or wealth versus poverty, and hunger versus I can't think of the English word, but a lot, like abundance is what I'm looking for. And you can play with that. So this is a cartoon I did for the newspaper during the Qatar war, over the World Cup in Qatar. Qatar war. And it's kind of putting Europe versus Qatar, but then with a twist, in the sense that Europe's pointing at Qatar and saying, oh, look at all these human rights abuses, while in our own backyard, a similar thing is of course happening with thousands of refugees drowning. And the cool thing about doing stuff like this and tying them to news events is, if I did that like a month earlier, before the World Cup had started, nobody would know the Qatar flag. But once the World Cup had started, everybody knew it. So I can get away with not writing Qatar. And then obviously everybody knows the circle of yellow stars. And then everybody knows those are migrants because they're in a boat and they're all wearing life jackets. And if you draw them in combination with the European flag, everybody will know that you're talking about migrants. So it's also it's the art of omitting. So how few elements can I draw and still have a very impactful image, and how much can I leave to the audience? And yeah.
Maybe this cartoon is also good to check another thing that's important. It's the composition of a cartoon, because I'm just gonna do what Tjeerd did because it's the only way. So basically, you see that the story moves on the diagonal, which is a natural way the eye reads the images. So you go on the diagonal, and then also you have the rule of thirds, which is also a photography rule, which is that you want to put the objects on two lines that are vertical and two that are horizontal that divide the image in 9 blocks, basically. Because this is the easiest way the eye is going to read the image. So it's going to help the person that sees the cartoon to interpret it faster, which is very important, because if you don't get a cartoon in the first few seconds, you're just not gonna enjoy it as much, or not gonna get it at all, you know?
Yeah, one more of mine. This one about the Ukraine war. And also a very simple image in the sense that it's a hand and a nutcracker. And the fun thing about cartoons is that you kind of create your own reality. So instead of the nutcracker cracking the nut, as we kind of all expected Russia to do in the first few months, or the first month after the invasion, here the nut cracking the nutcracker in the hand. And again, I can get away with creating a very simple image because everybody by now knows the Ukrainian flag and they know the Russian flag. So if I had done this cartoon before the invasion, a lot of people wouldn't have known the Ukrainian flag, so I probably would need to write or couldn't even do this cartoon. So it's, again, using news events, using common knowledge to create a simple image and then having a twist in it to make a point.
This is a cartoon of mine instead. Well, I picked it because we are in Italy, because I'm Italian, it's really a big topic. For me, of course, it comes easy to think about Italy as a leg or as a boot. It's really used. So I try to just depict the idea of the migrants coming, and then Italy just trying to either retract the leg, you know, not to let them in, because this is what basically happens. So in the end, it's a visual metaphor, you know. So it just tells a story using the elements that you can use for common knowledge in a culture, you know. So the flags, and then the sea, and then it's a process of simplification, you know. And this is also mine, and this is about instead the gas crisis. And so the idea is Mother Russia. And then of course it's like a, you know, like a piping system, you know, so it's like all the metal, and then there's Europe that's just there crying. So I thought it was conveying the message effectively, because you're kind of like you know, at the mercy of Russia, but also dependent physically, you know, and so I thought it was a fitting metaphor for that. This instead is by Cam de la Fou, and I think we thought to insert this because, well, because of the diagonal. You see it now. I mean, it's really common as a tool for building the cartoon to give order to the image. But what you notice first is the people, then you read food, and then you see that there are actually just tombstones. So the shadow becomes another object. So there's this kind of like cognitive dissonance of things that should be something else, and then that's what actually stays in your mind, because of course it's just a clever way to present the image.
So just tricking the mind in the sense that you expect to see something and then you see something else, and it's like, hey, there's something not right here. And then you keep looking at the image and hopefully thinking about the subject matter. So your job as a cartoonist is kind of to seduce people to think about the subject matter that you want them to think about.
And this is also on the same line. You have a scene with the ocean's habitat, but then you have trash inside. So what you expect to see is not what you see, and then you just like read the image. This is also really working because it's like a frame within a frame, you know. So you just like, it just leads the eye, and then people look at the object, so you're gonna look as well. So it just really is well, I mean, Gatiss is a great cartoonist, and it just really helps reading the cartoon, and it's really effective. And also, some cartoons, more than others, are timeless. So this one, it's gonna be something that you keep reusing every time there is maybe news about the environment. And some other cartoons instead, like Tjeerd said, about the Qatar World Cup, you do that, and then maybe 1 week before it would not have worked, and now we don't feel strongly about it anymore because it's past, you know, it wasn't in use, and it's not anymore.
Yeah, can I take this one? Okay, final trick of the cartoonist. Now, not the final, but at least the ones that we want to address here today. Otherwise, we'd be here all night. This is a cartoon, or the start of a cartoon, by an Iranian cartoonist called Payam Boromant. It, again, like many cartoonists do, starts with something very everyday. In this case, it's a child playing, and then it's the context around it that creates the cartoon. And again, first of all, you see the contradiction every day, and the contradiction and the context. And the context makes it into a cartoon about growing up in war, many children around the world that grow up in violent situations. But then one of the most important things that this cartoonist does to make this such an effective cartoon is he chooses the timing. And timing is something that you can play with as a cartoonist. So if you see cartoons in the next month or so, just count how many times you'll see a politician on a tightrope, or a car just about to go off a cliff. And there's a reason cartoonists do that. So in this case, Payam chose to draw the picture in the split second before the bomb falls, because he kind of knows how the human brain works. He knows that when you see this picture, the first thing your brain is going to do is going to finish the story. It's going to think, oh God, the bomb's going to fall and the girl's going to be dead. So you could have also drawn it like 1 second later, and it would be limbs everywhere and blood, but it wouldn't be nearly as effective. So again, it plays into the viewer to think about the picture, and that makes it work.
All right, so to wrap up these series of slides about how to draw a cartoon, less is more, as in simplify. You really need to get to the core of the thing. Like, as it is with books and stories, if there's a gun in the story, the gun needs to shoot. It's the same thing in a cartoon. All the elements play a part. What you add, that's like tiny details, it's nice, but you can do without if you want. So a cartoon can be really super simple and still be very effective. Well, that's point 2, I just said that. And then think about the composition. Again, diagonals work really well. Think about the direction of the reading of the cartoon. It now seems a lot of information, and it sounds super, super difficult, but actually those are natural things for us. you really just have an image in front and you know instinctively what is going to work. It just takes a tiny bit of exercise. So we just thought we can speed it up just saying that instead of learning it the hard way. So now, while you are explaining this, I'm going to
explain it. Yeah, are you going to do the passing around?
I'm going to do the
Okay,
passing.
guys, we're going to challenge you a little bit. And normally in workshops, I kind of, give everyone a pen and paper and say, hey, it should be your own idea, but we're kind of limited for time. So what Emad's going to do, he's going to pass around some pencils and some papers, and we're going to kind of challenge you to do a little drawing exercise to make a cartoon with two simple elements, a tank and Putin. And the fun thing about this, you don't really need to draw to be able to do this, because the tank is like really simple, and if you put a Z on the tank, everybody will know you're talking about the Russian forces. And if you put like a little man in the tank, everybody will know it's Putin, especially if you give him like no shirt. Yeah, I can better take that one. I think everybody remembers the holiday shots of Putin from like 10 years ago, I think. So you can work in groups, you can work on your own. Emma and I are going to pass around and give some tips, and hopefully we get some nice ideas, and we can take pictures of them and we can show them, and we can discuss. Yeah. Yeah. So no. Well, the idea is that you take these elements and try to do something, give it a twist. So the latest news, I think, is that Russia bombed one of their own villages. So something to do with that might be a nice angle to have like a tank shooting the wrong way or something like that. I'll kind of leave it up to you guys. It's. Yeah, we're going to be around, and this might also be a good time to take some questions if.
So while people are drawing, if somebody has questions, we can also answer them. And then if you have questions also about how to draw the cartoon, we can just give feedback. And then we can give feedback to some of the cartoons, maybe. Let's see if we have time. Now it's what? Yeah, we have 24 more minutes, so.
Oh, no, I think.
Maybe one suggestion for the topic, since I read this morning that Russia bombed their own territory by mistake. That can be one idea, just one idea for free. If the tank is like that and the cannon of the tank is turned backward toward Putin, it's already a cartoon. Because the news is Russia bombed their own city today. So, yeah? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I'm tempted by saying you can announce if you make a drawing. I don't know. And also we show many cartoons with text as well.
Yeah.
Say that text can be.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing that I want to add is don't be afraid of adding text in the cartoon if you feel like you're stuck and that could help you. We don't do that for our style, but it's really common in the US, for example. So instead of thinking about stuff without any balloons, without any conversations, it could also be a conversation in between objects or people or whatever. So just think freely.
And don't hesitate to ask us for feedback if you're stuck with an idea and you think like, oh, I want to do that, but I have no idea how to draw that, then we can definitely help. Who's like very quiet, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Nice. So I'm just gonna see what people are making. You wanna, yeah, I'll keep the mic. So can I ask what you're drawing? And he's like reading the manual of, oh, that's pretty cool. That's actually a pretty cool idea. Yeah, but the idea is like very solid. And you have already an idea of what you want to do? Can I ask what it is?
Sure, I'll show you actually because I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
L'ultima foto, no, questa. Okay. Firstly, who's this picture which is behind you?
Oh, it's a cartoon of mine. I'll get my. I can show you the original version. So it's just a ghosted out version of. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
I really like this.
Oh, thanks.
So cool.
Should be somewhere. So I have so many cartoons together. So it was about the Silicon Valley Bank which was collapsing, and then I made like a picture of like all the banks being stones. Like so this could be the start of a new banking crisis. So I drew it. So you see all the money coming out and all these signs like no sudden movement, no loud noises. We're scared that the whole system's gonna collapse again. Yeah, cool. Yeah, sure.
And no, this is why because basically I'm working on creating my own logo. So I believe that politics is more important than my logo. Therefore, the Z and Go will be outside it.
Yeah.
This is my logo.
Yeah.
And I like no loud noises because I love doing music.
Yeah.
So I am working on it basically.
Cool.
That's it.
Oh, awesome. That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, sure, definitely.
So I use like the metaphor of like an own goal. Like
Yeah.
football,
Yeah.
and just added a little.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Thing. So like.
That's actually great. That's a lovely idea.
Sorry, but yeah, just a
Yeah.
sketch, not.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, no, that's fine. Can I take a picture? Do you mind if we show this on like the big screen at the end? Let me see because this is like a great image. Yes, thanks so much. I'm gonna take a picture of yours as well if you're, towards the.
Will I ever be allowed to use no loud noises?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Definitely. That's just the phrase. There's no copyright. There's no copyright on that. So feel free. Hey, what you making?
I'm a bit ashamed because
Oh no, that's absolutely fine. It's just a fun exercise. So don't feel.
the composite is, I would say, Putin is 0.
Yeah.
So I would like to use the Z.
Yeah.
And the wheels.
Oh,
the
yeah.
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 This is 0.
Yeah.
So his face.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
it
you
makes
can
sense.
probably make it simpler. Like, can I just have a little? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Just a little sketch here. You can because it's really a great idea, but I think you can all combine it. So you do like the arrow in the tracks, and then you have the tank here with the Z, and then you have Putin's head here, and then you have like everything in just one image.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Thank you. Yes. No.
So I just had an idea for
Yeah.
that, but I drew this and said this is the Republican Party. If it were red, you would do it, and then books and fire
Oh,
and
yeah.
free speech.
Nice. Well, very clear.
I have an idea for this.
Oh, cool. No, you can use the other one as well. It was more that we had so limited time that it was kind of like if people get stuck on ideas, it's going to be a nightmare to get them.
Exactly.
But I imagine with U.S. politics being what they are, it's like no shortage of inspiration there. Hey, sorry, can I ask you?
just trying to practice the idea you.
Cool. Ja, maar oké.
Nederland van tanks die
Ja.
geleverd gaan worden, maar pas in 2024. Iets van, ja, Poetin tegen die rustig aan het vissen of zo.
Oh ja, cool. Ja, precies.
Een enorme rij tanks hier die inmiddels geproduceerd worden.
Oh, nice. That's a good contradiction. And Jarrell. So the barrel is pointing up. And it's coming. That's actually quite awesome. I'm gonna take a picture of that. I'm actually gonna take it now. I think you're gonna be on the big screen. And why is it not working? No, I just want a photo. I think I'm gonna take a picture of yours as well when you're. Cool. I'm just gonna put the microphone to the other side. So guys, how are you doing in the front?
We're done.
Okay, show me. Oh, is that like a yeah. Oh wow. Oh, that's actually cool. Awesome. If you, yeah.
Nou, het zit zeg maar goed in het hoofd. Maar ik weet even niet waar ik nu moet beginnen.
Okay, vertel.
Ik wil hem zo hebben dat hij op zo'n tank zit. Wat ik graag doet, maar dat hij in reverse zet. Dat hij
Oh ja.
niet helemaal...
Ja. Even kijken, ik pak er ook even een plaat, maar ik kan meedenken. Ja, precies. Het is nog best een uitdaging om in 10 minuutjes in te zetten. Ja,
Waar begin je bij hem?
nou, ik denk dat je het makkelijkst kan beginnen bij, kijk, als je wil aangeven dat hij achteruit rijdt, dan zou ik altijd beginnen bij het tankspoor, zeg maar. Dus als je nou het tankspoor hebt, wordt, en dan hier de tank. En dan loopt deze kant en doet iedereen dat hij achteruit rijdt. Dus misschien heb je zelf dan, als je het met gewoon het tankspoor doet en dan loopt je maar, heb je zelf al geen reverse stick nodig, omdat je het op die manier al duidelijk maakt. En dan, ja, Poetin, ik denk niet inderdaad dat een beetje als een eihoofd, met een neus, precies, en weinig haar.
Maar je had toch gewoon prima idee. Het moet ook niet te streng zijn, hè? Maar het is niet.
Tussen de 2,5 en 3 uur, denk ik.
Zijn er uitzonderingen?
Ja, van niks tot, ja, als ik echt geen idee heb, kan het om 4, 5 uur worden. Maar het is meestal alleen op vakantie ben geweest. Ja, dat is zoiets kan dan zit er kijken. Je bent er volgens mij al. Dan kan je ook nog zo'n trucje doen dat je hier wat lijntjes doet voor de snelheid. Zeg maar. Dat je heel snel achteruit gaat. Dus voor mij doe je dan best wel even die beeld.
Bedankt.
Yes. Cool. What are you making? Yes. Ja. quickly get them into the drive. Should be able to. I have the drive app. In the meantime, we have 8 minutes left, so if there's any questions you want to ask us, now would be the time, I think. Sure.
I'm just like I don't know anything about cartooning practice, but I just like drawing. But how do you work with editors and publications? Is it very similar to kind of writing in that you pitch an idea, or do you write do you produce the cartoon first and then send it over?
Well, there are different ways to go about it. I personally distribute through syndication services, which means that I make a cartoon and it goes through distribution. That's the Cartoon Movement, Cartooning for Peace, and then in the US, others. And then the cartoon is there up for grabs from newspapers. So it can be published also multiple times. So that's one way. But then it can also be not published, which is also happening, more often than I would be happy, And then there is, you work with a newspaper, and I have a couple of magazines that publish my cartoons, and they just give me the topic, and I have freedom. Unless it's something very, very bad, which hasn't happened yet, then the editor is like, I really don't get it. Then you have freedom, and you just have your cartoon. So that's the best way to work. If you're treated as a part of a staff of journalists, it's your responsibility what you're publishing. So then there is an editor that helps you understand, maybe, because of course you could be missing something. But then otherwise, it should be the responsibility and the freedom of the cartoonist. But it really depends. If you are a freelance cartoonist like this, it's usually you pitching and then getting purchased through syndication. You want to say something, Tjeerd?
Adding to what Emad said, I work for my newspaper. I just have a fixed spot, and I can basically do whatever I want. But that's like a really ideal situation. That you get like a spot in the newspaper and they say, make a cartoon, and we actually don't care. You just do your thing. Because at the last newspaper I worked with, I had to submit sketches and they had to approve. So it kind of varies per editor and per newspaper you work for. Share some of them. My internet is giving me hiccups, of course.
I have one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Here. There's one. I'm trying to upload mine, but it's with the Wi-Fi.
There's another one that's actually the horizontal version.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So there's actually this theme we saw a lot. That's the fun thing. If you ask like, I'll get the microphone. If you ask like a group to draw about a certain topic, and you ask them to do visuals and not use words, you'll actually end up with a lot of similar cartoons. So minds do work in similar ways. So I've seen a lot of these bent barrels. I've also seen a lot of the barrels having to do with Putin's penis being either small or bent down or in some way flaccid. So that was nice. So some pretty inventive work, but also some pretty good similarities on what's being drawn. About the text, you can.
So the text says, "There's no light in the tunnel." I think it's really funny because then you look into the mouth of the cannon, and then there's like a. It would be even punchier if it was "There's no light at the end of the tunnel," because then it's like the lack of a hope for Putin, right? So I actually think it really works. My suggestion for this was also something like if you stare into the black stares into you, something like that, So then you've got like the cannon, but it really depends on how you draw it because it needs to be clear. But the text like this, if it's really well done and dry, it can really work well with the cartoons. Do you have any other uploaded?
No, I'm trying, but my Wi-Fi is not. So I should have tested this before. That's too bad because there was some examples.
Do you want me to take a picture of your picture and then upload it?
Oh yeah. That's actually. Let me see where they are.
we have like 3 minutes, so
I
just
know.
one more.
Yeah. Let me see which one is nice to share though.
Don't panic. Ah, this is funny. Wait. Oh my God.
This one's like similar.
If you want to say something to diffuse the tension at this moment.
Sure. So thank you guys though for making the effort to make a cartoon. I hope you kind of got the gist of what political cartoon making entails. So if you want to see us at work, we're going to be drawing live this afternoon, starting at 5 at the bar of the hotel. We're going to be there tomorrow as well. So if you want to see us working and making cartoons, yeah.
With Putin's penis and.
Yeah, that's actually. No, I think the picture speaks for itself. It's like the cliche says, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and with those parting thoughts, I'll leave you. So thanks for your attention, guys.
Thanks, everyone. So we hope we see you later, and if you have other questions, just come, please.